Gonna try something new today. I'm gonna film solo with no cameraman. It's my new little setup here. I'm gonna put on a set of strings on a V3X, Phase 4 33 with some gas strings. Come along and let's see how good or bad this does. Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel. Mfjj here with podiumarcher.com, installing a set of strings on a Phase 4 33. This will be our first video of a series of trying to install strings on just about every bow we can think of, so you can have a step-by-step guide on how to do it yourself. So the number one thing, I can't stress it enough, is take pictures. And my penmanship is absolutely horrible right here, but I made a little checklist of what to do. Nobody can probably read that because I flunked penmanship. I just never had the patience. But number one, before you do anything, is take pictures and measure your axle to axle and your brace height before you take it apart. Once you've done that, I'm going to set you up to where you can see me here. That should be pretty good. Number one, when you're going to press the bow, you're going to remove the string. Now, one might ask why you would take pictures. And it's just to ensure that when you're doing this, you can go back and look if you do something incorrectly. So that's your string. We're going to take that off first. This off. Next thing you're going to want to do, this is just specifically for the Matthews, and as I do these, I'll do them each one on what to do in order. You're going to want to go and remove the upper cable. So this is going to be your upper cable. It connects to the upper yoke. Disconnect it off your piece here. I'm going to pick this up and see if you can see it real quick. Right in there. You want to take that off and disconnect it and pull it off there. Just like that. And we'll unloop it off there. I know this isn't ideal, folks, but if I can figure out how to get this to where you can follow it by myself, I can get a lot more of this done. So, pulling the yoke out, or sorry, the cable off the yoke. When you take that cable off, make sure to remove this little plastic piece right here. You don't want to lose those. I think we actually do have these on the website in case you break one or lose one, because they aren't entirely uncommon to break, but let's hope you don't. All right, the next thing you're going to want to do is take your axle out. So we need a Allen wrench. Remove this here. Now sometimes these will come off and sometimes the other side will spin and you need two Allen wrenches. This one's spinning, so I need two of the same size wrench. I'm hoping that's it. That is it. Cool. And it'll unscrew from one side or the other. It looks like this one's going to unscrew from this side. So when you pull it off, one little thing I love to have, and this fell off the other day, is a little magnet tray. So little metal things that you take off. You try not to lose them. There's a little piece right in here that comes off too. So you can take a look at that. That's underneath the screw right there. Screw, that's underneath it. Keep those slid together like that. Put it on your magnet tray. Next thing you want to do is pull the axle out. This you need to be careful on, because sometimes these limbs will try to slide out the press because there's pressure on it. So pull your axle out, set it in your magnet tray. This is like a little $4 magnet tray. This is priceless if you're going to work on your own stuff. Pull the axle out. Oop. Drop your Allen wrench on the floor. And pull this out. Take the yoke off. Now, I like to set it back in and at least hold the, hang on one second. Wow. Sorry about that. Get that off here. There it is. All right. Dang it. Dropping stuff. Okay. I like to put that back in there just so everything stays together. If you do things one step at a time, you're way less likely to screw something up. So now that we've got the axle out and the yoke off, we're going to pull our strings out of our packaging from gas. Everything comes together paper clipped. So it has the appropriate amount of twist already in it. You typically won't have to adjust anything. That doesn't mean you won't have to put a couple twists in your string or your cable to get your axle to axle and your brace height right, which is why you're measuring it to begin with, okay? But if you unpaper clip these, don't let go of them. Keep the twist in them. The amount that's in there should stay in there. So you pull this piece off, pull that back out, set it in your magnet tray, pull it up. I'll see if I can get this closer to this camera so you can see it, and put it in the little pieces there. Now don't really fixate on trying to keep these in here at this stage, because they're just going to fall off as soon as you let go of it anyway. You just got to get it on either side of the cam assembly, and once you get that yoke back on the way it's supposed to be, you can put your axle back in, which this part's always a little tricky because they don't always line up, and sometimes the limbs try to push off, so it's a little difficult. Alright, so now that we've got that back installed, we're going to want to find one of our cables. Okay, so my order of this said remove axle, pull yoke, install new cable. I shouldn't have done it that way. You can't install the cable until you pull this other one out, because you got to do this one first because it's on the outside of the bow. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect this other one, slide it on out, and do the same thing down here that we were doing up here. So we're going to come down here with our yoke tool coming off. Take our bus cable out, our control cable technically, a bus has a yoke. Take that out, this piece. Remove the axle, which in this case requires you to unscrew. A lot of bows will have an E-clip on the end, or some of you call it a C-clip. There's a tool that helps take those out and put those back on. We do actually sell those on the website if you have a bow that requires an E-clip, but the Mfjs have screws. We're going to push that axle back out. Oh, there it goes. Once again, magnet tray. It's an extra hand. Pull the yoke off. Grab your next yoke. Take it off here. Keep the twist in it. Come in here. Now you can see I'm kind of holding some pressure on it with my finger while I'm pulling it into the cam to keep those seated. Once you get into here and you can get your axle back in, you really don't have to worry about that until you won't go to put pressure back on it. Because like I said, these will just come back out anyway. Don't get really fixated on trying to keep them in there because they're just going to come out. Just make sure before you unpress the bow that you put them back. Okay, so now we've done our axle removal, and we don't need to worry about taking the axles out again unless we ended up having to do a top hat when we tuned this, which we'll do a video on that. All you got to do is screw your screws back into the axle, and it's relatively safe as far as the limbs coming out of the press at any point. That's really the only dangerous part of this if you're not paying attention. So like I said before, take a bunch of pictures. It's way better to have an example of what it was like before you took it apart when you're trying to put it back together. Now on the cables that you're going to use here, where did I do this here? There we go. Okay, so one of these ends is going to be served and one of these ends is not going to be served. See if I can show you a little better here. So served, this big open loopy deal, not served. This is what goes over the plastic piece. So I find it's easier to loop this in here. Try to seat this back in there. Put it through the bottom, little hole. Oh, you can see my hands on there. I don't know if you can see that there. Here, let me, hang on. Through that hole like that. I don't know if that'll focus, hopefully that does. And then push this end through that loop. Be careful when you're putting the serving parts through, because that's what it'll catch on and pop your strand material, because that's just the string fiber right there is all. Try to center this. It's not 100% mandatory, because it will center itself a little bit when you shoot it, but it'll save you a little left to right grief when you're trying to tune it, if you get that relatively in the center. And then go to where there's not serving right here. That's not served right here, and put that through the roller very carefully so you don't cut it, because there's hard edges through there and you can cut it. And that goes on the upper side of the roller. I'm going to bring this up real close here so you can see that. Upper side of the roller on the outside. So the lower cable goes to the outside. Make sure to give me comments on this video down below of things that you wish I took a shot of, or stopped and showed you something slow. Because like I said, it's my first video. I intend to do a lot of these. Obviously, if they don't get viewed, I probably won't do a lot of these, but I really think they will. I think people want detailed breakdown instructions on how to do these things. And I will try to give you the most detail I can, because I want you to feel comfortable trying to do these things yourself. This is not that complicated. All right, so now we're up to the other cable. So separate, we only got 2 pieces left. Undo the paper clip, pull it out, make sure you don't untwist it. Once again, let's see, sorry, I'm gonna make sure focus. That's served, that's not. Okay, so this goes around the plastic yoke, this goes in the cam. All right, that piece goes back in the yoke here. I like to go underneath, pull it through, grab your cable, pull that all the way through, go into the roller, slide it through the roller very carefully, and then put it back down underneath the cam. Pop it over, pop that back in there. So, but always, unless you consider yourself a massive expert with this, take one piece off at a time and replace it if it's possible. You should be able to look at that and it should kind of look correct. If you look at it from the side, and then let me stick the string on and I'll give you some close-ups of some things to reference to make sure you got it right. Now, the little tail in the string goes above center, so that tells you that this one goes on the top, and this one goes on the bottom. So, come underneath, go through the yoke, hook it on the open peg here, put it in the groove, work it down and around. Then, same thing on this end, through here, on the peg, back in the groove. And then what you'll find, most often these are a little shorter because they haven't been stretched or broken in. A lot of times you won't be able to get it all the way on. All right, so I'm going to flip this around for a second so I can see. All right, so one, that cable has to go around that loop. Hopefully you can see that. If I got an angle that gets you at better. And that cable, when you put some pressure on it, should be about like that, right in the middle of that hole, right there. Okay, same thing there, that'll line up the same. Make sure that these yokes are in those grooves all the way around, and you can kind of move it a little bit and you'll see it moving and rotating. Same thing here. There's a couple of good tells to try here before you let the weight off of this thing. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so before you let the weight off it, try to draw the bow a little bit. Not like reef it out of the press or anything, but grab on it and you'll feel if the top and the bottom are both pulling, and you can kind of feel it. And if they are, hold it back, let the weight down, and it'll pull your hand down towards the string. Just like that. So what we're looking for is that cable and that hole to be roughly in the middle. That's pretty close. This is a starting point. You see that one's just a little different. So we would probably put like one twist in this cable right here before we tried putting it in the drawboard. But this video is just solely for the purpose of how to install a set of these strings on this bow, and that goes for any other string. The installation is exactly the same no matter what. So like I said, comment down below, give me ideas, let me know what shots of that you really felt like you needed to see that I didn't show you, what angles you needed to see. Yes, I'm going to do a video on timing these bows. Yes, I'm going to do other significant videos in that regard, but number one was just how to install the strings and get them on your bow so you don't blow up your bow. There'll be a link in this video for a link to these strings in case you want to try it yourself. You can get them through our website, and we do drop ship right to them if we don't stock it. If we stock it, it ships out the same day, next day. It is more than $99, so it will be free shipping. Once again, comment down below on what you see. This is the first video like this I've done. I don't know if it'll be perceived well or not, or if you like it, or if I just missed a whole bunch of angles. I have two cameras going, and I'll try to put the relevant view at each time, but you know, like I said, I'm trying to do this myself, and I'm going to miss some things. So if there's stuff you need to see, or if you have questions down below, comment down below so I know what you're looking for. Thanks for watching.